I was out to dinner and I happened to bump into a friend of mine who was quite a bit older than me, about 10 years older than me. But I also hadn't seen this guy for about 10 years. And so when, I walked into the restaurant and he saw me and we kind of jumped up, and there was a lot of enthusiasm, and it was great to see this bloke. And we got chatting, and as I shook his hand and I kind of gave him a hug, he noticed that he noticed that I had a wedding ring on my finger, and he goes, "Oh, yes, gosh, are you like how are you going? Like what's been happening?" He goes, "Are you married now?" I said, "Yeah, mate." I said, I'm married. And he almost fell over. He goes, "Oh my gosh." He goes, "Gee, like how time flies." And I said, "How about you, mate?" And he goes, "Oh, mate, I'm not that silly." Right? He goes, "Everybody knows that romance and love die once you get married." And right there in the restaurant, I don't like to launch into these big, now sit down and I'll tell you why you're wrong. That's not really the way that I tend to work or speak with people. All I said was, only if you let it. Amen. And of course, we spoke a little bit more about that, but then we got onto other things. But that conversation stuck with me. I thought, yeah, it's true. Romance and passionate love only die in marriage if the couple let it die. As long as a couple continue working at their love and their friendship and the romance and the passion inside of that marriage, there is no reason why that should have to die in marriage. If anything, it should deepen. Their intimacy should deepen and increase and multiply, yes, and fly, multiply and fly high, much higher and above anything they could have experienced before they were married. Amen. So look, when you ask a young couple, how did you guys meet, right? Sometimes you can ask, especially a young woman that has just fallen in love, and you might be sitting there for a lot longer than what you're expecting to have to listen to the story of how her and her boyfriend met and fell in love. Because why? When you're madly in love, you think everybody finds your love story as interesting and exciting and romantic as you do. Amen? Right? So they're full of enthusiasm, which is a beautiful thing. And that's a wonderful thing, because when a young couple meet and they fall in love, there are parts of that story that should mean the world to that couple. Not everybody else is going to understand it fully. We can certainly look at certain love stories and we can say, wow, like that was amazing how all that happened. But nobody knows your story like you do. Amen? And so every couple does have their story that should excite them, especially at the start. Okay? So it is true, however, that when we get married, our love does begin to mature, and it will deepen and it will grow stronger. And yes, I'm not trying to say, that obviously the whole video is about that romance and passion doesn't have to die in marriage. But I think anybody that has been married, okay, for longer than for a bit longer than a few weeks, right, will know that you do not experience the same kinds of nerves before you see your spouse every day that you did when you first started dating. You don't get like that excited, nervous, sick feeling in the stomach, the warm, fuzzy feelings, the over the moon excitement about seeing them in the same way. Yes, of course, your love is there. It's deep. You do feel. I'm not just saying that love becomes merely a choice and a chore in marriage. There should be all that fire and love and passion there. But of course, anybody that has been married for longer than a few weeks knows it does change. Amen? But this is the sad thing. A couple that don't even have to be married yet, but over time, a couple's story, their unique and individual love story of how they met and fell in love, it begins to become shorter and shorter. Okay? Now, it's possible that they notice, well, gee, people aren't as excited about our story as we are. But, it might go from an hour to half an hour, and then in certain circumstances, a few minutes, and then eventually we almost just start to learn. We start to shrink it down to a sentence or even just to a place. How did you guys meet? At a pub, at the library, at uni. We met on a Catholic retreat. Even I have done this many times, right? Just quickly because, in whatever situation I might have been in. But our love story does start to become shorter and shorter. But the sad thing is that we can even begin to lose that memory about just how powerful and how beautiful, how romantic, how special our love story really was. We lose the enthusiasm as we're sharing it, okay? So, as a married couple, it is so important that you never forget your story. Now, when I say that you never forget your story, as a couple, you should never, ever, ever gloss over how you met, how God brought you together, what it was about each other that made you fall in love. Okay? Like, think about it. How did he or she look the first time you ever saw them? Or what about the first time that you made her laugh? Or she made you laugh? Or the first time that you went out you went to the movies? Or the first time you went out to dinner? Or, we all know that there are certain conversations that we had. Maybe they started off a little bit painful, but then they ended like beautifully. Or maybe, you remember having this important conversation, while you were sitting on the beach together or something, or you were out to dinner at this nice restaurant. I want to encourage you, don't forget those parts of your story. What about the first time you gave each other a hug? Or the first time you held hands, or the first time that you kissed? Those moments serve as anchors for married couples, especially who have been married 5, 10, 15, 20 years or more. They serve as anchors in the hard times of marriage. But also, it's so important when things are going really well to also just to revisit those memories, because they just continue to deepen and strengthen your love and your passionate love for each other in your marriage. So never stop being re-amazed by your own love story. Okay? So I want to encourage you. This is a nice short video today. It's a little bit different than what I normally talk too long. But I want to encourage you, married couples, go on a date this week. Okay, if you aren't married yet, if you're engaged or if you're courting, you can do it as well. It might be a little bit easier if you're just courting because it'll be so fresh, and maybe you're still on a high about it. But especially if you feel like, gosh, yeah, all those little details at the beginning that, when those little details happened, we took them as signs that God was really blessing our union. We had so much in common, and there was so much fun and laughter and affection and joy. You know what? Revisit those things. And I want you to go on a date with your spouse or with your boyfriend, girlfriend, or if you're engaged, go out with this person. And I want you to revisit all the parts of your early love story that maybe you haven't spoken about for a while, or maybe you have started to forget. Amen. And just, relive it in slow motion. Be enthusiastic about it. Go through it step by step and really enjoy it. Laugh together, cry together, hug, right? Enjoy it. It's a really special thing to do. And the next time somebody asks you, so after you've gone on this date and you've spoken about it, I want you to think about, how are we going to answer what our love story is from here on in? When people ask us how we met, what are we going to say? Are we simply going to be like, yeah, we met at a library, we met at the uni, we met at the pub, and are we going to say it as though it meant nothing? Or are we going to find a way to communicate? Please don't hear me wrong. I'm not saying that I think you should have a 30-minute version, okay? But when someone asks you and your spouse, how did you meet? You should be able to put your arm around your wife, or hug your husband, or look into his eyes with love and give a simple, short answer, amen, about how you met. But when somebody asks you how you met, that should trigger in you, okay, a passionate, romantic response to your husband or wife and help you in that moment to relive it. And the way that you look at your husband or the way that you look at your wife as you share that brief little story about how you both met, they should witness a powerful love right in front of them. They need to see by the way that you touched her or the way that you looked at him and the way that you said how you met with such love and tenderness. You should witness the love that Christ has for the church and the church has for Christ in that moment. Because married couples, your love is, I always say this, it's one of the greatest tools of evangelism, of evangelization for other people, okay? As a married couple, you're meant to be witnessing God's love for us. How many married couples do you look at today that speak this loudly and proclaim it boldly? Okay, I hope there's more than what I've seen, and I hope I'm proclaiming that. But when you are asked this from now on, after you go on this date, I want this question to spark in you, to reawaken in you this joy about how you met, and use that to witness to other people and to help deepen your own love life and your own marriage. I hope that's helpful. If you do go on one of these dates, or if you've got an awesome story to share, okay, about how you met your husband or you met your wife, please feel free to comment below and let us know how you met or what you learned from this video or anything. If you've got anything to comment, we would love to hear it, and we will respond to everything. I will personally respond to everything. May God bless you and your spouse. And for all those hoping to get married or who are engaged or courting right now, I also hope that you'll have fun with this little date challenge too. God bless.